You've been lied to. Confuse your muscles, they said. Never do the same workout twice, they said. Next thing you know, Chad from Instagram is doing Bosu ball squats with battle ropes and calling it shock training. Spoiler alert, the only thing confused is your progress. Today, we're going to destroy the muscle confusion myth and show you what actually builds size, strength, and results you can flex without the smoke and mirrors. Let's break the gym cult brainwashing. One rep at a time. 1. Where the muscle confusion myth actually came from. Contrary to what your favorite shredded influencer might preach, muscle confusion wasn't born in a lab. It was born in a marketing meeting. P90X popularized the term in the early 2000s as a way to keep home workouts spicy. And guess what? It worked for sales. But scientifically, not so much. Muscles don't get confused like toddlers in a calculus class. They adapt, and they only adapt to progressive overload. So if your biceps aren't confused, does that mean they're not growing? Not exactly. Let's talk about what actually sparks that growth. 2. Progressive overload. The one true muscle building law. Forget muscle confusion. You want muscle adaptation. And that comes from doing more over time. More weight, more reps, more sets, and ultimately, more tension. In other words, stress your muscles a bit more each week, not in a panic attack kind of way, but just enough that your body goes, yo, I wasn't ready for that. That's the overload your body responds to. Not a random circus act in the squat rack. Here's the key. Your muscles don't care if the exercise is flashy or Instagram worthy. They only care about force and fatigue. If last week you pressed 50s for 8 reps, and this week you pressed them for 9, that's progress. Or if you hit the same 8 reps, but with 55s instead, that's progress too. And progressive overload isn't only about piling weight on the bar. You can increase training volume, tighten your rest times, or improve your form and range of motion. All of these count as ways to progressively demand more. So yes, doing the same workout can feel boring, but boring is where the results come from. And if you want variety, there's a smart way to add it without sabotaging progress. We'll get to that soon. 3. Variety isn't evil. Randomness is. Variety builds balance. Randomness builds chaos. Changing exercises strategically? Smart. Adjusting angles to hit different fibers? Even better. But cycling through a dozen different workouts every week with no progression plan? That's like trying to build a house by moving the bricks around instead of stacking them. Your muscles don't grow from novelty. They grow from repeatable overload. So yes, switch it up, but with a purpose. So now you're wondering, okay, then how often should I actually change things up? Perfect segue. Let's get into it. 4. When and how to add variation for max growth. Here's the golden rule. Only change your workouts when your progress stalls, not because you got bored. Try this. Sticking with a movement for at least 4 to 6 weeks, track your reps, weight, and rest time, and only rotate it out if you've plateaued or it's causing pain. Think of variation as seasoning, not the whole meal. A little enhances growth. Too much? You just made a confusing mess. All right, let's put the nail in the coffin. If confusion doesn't build muscle, what does? The answer is the foundation of progress every lifter needs to know. 5. What really builds muscle, according to science? Let's keep it science-backed and simple. Mechanical tension, created by challenging loads or lighter weights pushed close to failure, the key driver of growth. Metabolic stress, the burn, the pump, and the cellular fatigue that amplifies the growth signal. Muscle damage, small-scale fiber disruption from controlled eccentrics, which plays a secondary role. You don't need to reinvent the gym wheel. You need to consistently apply these 3 stimuli over time through compound lifts, good form, and progressive effort. Want to get jacked? Focus on squats, deadlifts, presses, rows. Not juggling kettlebells on a balance board while whistling Eye of the Tiger. But bro, won't your gains plateau if you don't trick your body? Let's tackle that classic fitness myth next. 6. Plateaus happen. But confusion isn't the cure. Every lifter hits plateaus. That's normal. It's not a sign to panic and start confusing your muscles with randomized routines that lack progression. Instead, use strategies like taking a deload week, adjusting rep ranges, for example, shifting from 6 to 8 to 10 to 12, or strategically increasing volume or intensity. The solution to a plateau is targeted progression tweaks, not chaos disguised as training. So, how do top athletes train without muscle confusion? Do they shock their bodies into new PRS? Let's see what they do differently. 7. What real athletes do. Hint, it's not confuse their quads. Walk into any serious strength gym. You'll see the same thing. Repetition, progression, programming, discipline. Elite athletes don't confuse their muscles, they train them with brutal consistency. They know that strength and hypertrophy are built through long-term programs, structured periodization cycles, and meticulous tracking of your lifts. There's no confusion here, just intelligent adaptation over time. Still not convinced? Let's take a quick peek at some studies that slam the door shut on the myth for good. 8. What the research actually says. Study after study shows that structured progressive overload beats randomized programs. Schoenfeld et al. 2016 found that both varied and non-varied programs work, but only if progressive overload is maintained. In other words, variety by itself isn't the driver of growth, it's progression. Variety just keeps things interesting while you progress. Fonseca et al. 2014. Exercise variety did help with regional hypertrophy, meaning you can slightly change which part of a muscle grows more by altering angles or exercises. But here's the kicker. It didn't improve overall strength any more than a consistent, basic program. And when you zoom out, almost every review points to the same conclusion. Your body adapts best when it gets a repeatable signal with small progressive changes over time. Random switches aren't magic, they're just noise. So the takeaway? Planned progression is king. Variety is a useful assistant, but if it's running the show, you're leaving gains on the table. Now let's hit you with the final blow. The real reason fitness influencers love muscle confusion. 9. Why influencers push muscle confusion and what they're not telling you. You know why they push it? Because it sells programs. If every workout is new, exciting, and never before seen, it feels special. It feels like you're unlocking cheat codes. But real muscle building? It's not sexy. It's eating right, lifting heavy, recovering smart, and repeating that consistently for months. So where do you go from here? Here's the final word on what to do if you actually want to grow. 10. The final truth. Clarity builds muscle, not confusion. If you want real gains, pick effective exercises, train them consistently, track your lifts, add load or reps over time, and recover like a pro. Muscle confusion is a distraction. Clarity, structure, and progression. That's your true muscle building trifecta. You don't need to confuse your muscles. You need to convince them through effort, consistency, and a plan that actually makes sense. If you've ever swapped workouts every week thinking that would shock your muscles, hit that like button. Subscribe if you're ready to stop the confusion and start the progression. Because on Wednesday, we're dropping the next episode. Do you really need 48 hours to recover? And remember, you don't need chaos to grow. You need clarity, consistency, and maybe a decent post-workout meal. Catch you in the next one.